Danner and Huckberry made what they call the lightest and toughest performance hiking sneaker they've ever seen, with claims like nitrogen-infused midsole, per-spare upper for quick-dry and extreme durability, a TPU rock plate, and it's recraftable. But there's a lot of BS marketing out there in the footwear world, so we're gonna cut this thing in half, run it through our test to really figure out if those are functional or if it's just marketing gimmick and jargon. Is it actually resolable? And ultimately, is this the lightest and toughest performance hiking sneaker that they've ever seen? So what is this shoe? Well, the brand is Huckberry X Danner. The style is the N45 low hiking sneaker. They weigh 14 ounces. They retail for $200 even. They're made in Vietnam. And the way they position this product is the N45 is designed to keep you cool on a sunny city trail or dry desert rocks. The construction allows for breathability and abrasion resistance, while recraftable Vibram soles with traction lugs and mega grip save you from slip. Featuring ultra lightweight and durable nitrogen-infused enduro foam midsoles, the N45 has a high energy return that feels like you're walking on air. So if you do want a pair of these, check them out, the links in the description. This is a very exclusive colorway to Huckberry. So if you want this colorway, you gotta go to Huckberry. And so now let's start going through the details, starting with that per-spare upper. What is this material? Well, let me pull it up. It's actually pretty interesting. On Meramec's website, who is the manufacturer of this material, they say, guaranteed lightness and strength, weaving directly into the fabric super fibers, such as Kevlar, PU Tech, etc., for maximum breathability, abrasion, and cut resistance in different areas of the same upper. What I gather from that is there's Kevlar in this. And what they've done is made a unique material that weaves in high abrasion, high breathability, high stretch, different property fibers into different parts of the material to give you the properties you want. And so for this part, I'm guessing this is where the Kevlar is. So we did a few cut tests just comparing how it cuts compared to other stuff, how easy it cuts, how much it rips. And you can see it is a very durable material. I think those claims of it being maybe not the ultimate material for shoe uppers, because leather's pretty cool, but I think it does fit those claims of abrasion resistance. What about the lightweightness, the breathability? Well, we did the breathability test and it seems like it's pretty breathable. But the test I was most interested in was how quick drying are these actually? Because for me, I hike in boots so that I don't get water and junk to the inside of the shoe. But if you're hiking in shoes, there's a good chance you're gonna get wet. So we did a quick drying test to compare this compared to a different, more typical hiking shoe. And as you can see, they do dry faster. And I think it's because this fabric just doesn't absorb as much water. So per spare, I think it passed the test. I think it does what it says. Is it as good as leather? It's hard to say. But there are some materials on here that look like leather. You can see this has a bumper that goes all the way around the entirety of the shoe, that double layers right here, or at least it looks like it double layers, we'll see. And is this actual leather? We did the burn test. This crosshatch is not leather. It's more of a fake leather, a rubberized fake leather, but this seems to be real leather. And I'm just glad there's some leather on this boot, to be honest with you, for shoe. But what's interesting, we also did the burn test on these materials and they acted really interesting. Compare how they reacted compared to just a normal material on sneakers or hiking shoes. I like that material. I think they've done something really cool with it. I do wish that this was leather. You know, I think leather, this will probably perform similar to leather. It just won't age the same way because once you start wearing off this top coat, for instance, grab my little Christie knife, 4th generation owned, really cool little pocket knife. You know, once you get through that material, you're down to all those loose fibers. And over time, there's a chance that this top coat could flake off. I think it still performs similar to leather, but at least there's some leather in here. And we also did the puncture test on these materials with these results. But what was interesting is I assumed this was double layered up, but unfortunately it's not double layered up. I don't think that's a big deal though. It's like a trail shoe. It's supposed to be lightweight. And the fact that it has this much abrasion resistance all the way around the entirety of the shoe, even though it's not full leather, still really happy with it. And I think it's really well designed, especially for the price point. But what about the inside of the shoe? Is there anything on the inside that makes it more hike ready to prevent water from getting in, all that stuff? Yes, actually, because it has like almost a fully gusseted tongue. You can see the lining and the upper are almost two different boots or shoes put into each other. You're still gonna get plenty of water and stuff in from the top, but that gusset goes all the way up to here. And so we did the waterproof test on it to see if it's waterproof, and it's not. The only downside I can see with this is the potential of dirt and grime getting stuck between those two layers. You just have to dump it out and make sure it doesn't get too much buildup in there. But it is definitely made for trails. And they call this material Areoprene, which basically it's a neoprene. It has some holes in it that's gonna be more breathable. It still has some squish. And if it didn't have the holes, it'd probably be waterproof or more water resistant, but the breathability holes definitely kill that. To me, the most interesting thing about this shoe, the nitrogen infused enduro foam midsole. The closest thing I can think of is I believe they put nitrogen in the GTR, and it was a superior gas to put into tires. And it even had a little bit more rebound. And more importantly, it's inert and it's dry. And so you don't have any moisture trapped into the tires or the cells of foam. And so the idea is actually really, really cool. the fact that it's similar to GTR, I love generally. And these shoes do have a lot of spring in them. When you're walking in these, when you're stepping in these, you feel that really squishy midsole. But to test how much rebound this nitrogen infused midsole actually has, we did the ball drop test and it bounced up 14.5 inches. So it is very, very responsive. And I think that's the whole reason why they put that nitrogen into this foam. It does stabilize it because there's no moisture, but I think more than anything, it's made for energy return. And I think that's why they call it enduro foam. So you can keep enduring while you're walking. I don't think it's about the endurance of the material. I think it's about the endurance that it allows you to have. And is it a gimmick? It probably is a little bit, you know, but it seems to work. These have millions and millions of little microscopic bubbles that have the nitrogen trapped in those tiny bubbles. So even after you've started to break down the foam, it's still gonna have some of that responsive nitrogen feel. And to back that up, it comes with a plate. And I'm not sure what exactly and where this is, but I'm assuming it's a plate to add a little bit of rigidity. And I think the reason they did this plate was a similar reason as the midsole, is to almost spring you forward. I'm assuming they wanted some rigidity in there to back up the squish of the foam and to help propel you forward with the help of the foam. So we'll see where this plate is when we get it cut in half, but it might be this kind of yellow color through here that's underneath of this Vibram outsole. And this looks like a pretty good outsole. You know, it's 65 Shore A. We did the bar drop test. It bounced up 4.5 inches, which, you know, backs up that thought of the nitrogen foam being really responsive. We did the puncture test and it took just under 70 pounds to puncture through. So I think that is the plate. And the thing I like about this outsole is there is these windows that allow it to be a little bit more flexible and articulate, but the lugs are still pretty tall. They're not overly sparse where it's gonna wear out, and they're not super soft. So this will be a pretty durable outsole. And really the final thing before we cut this in half is they claim they're recraftable. So is there any signs that this is recraftable? I think the way that they would recraft it is basically pull off the midsole and outsole and just glue a new one on. I think that's the separation point. I don't think you're gonna be getting much repaired up through here. You see a little bit of that spillover of the glue, whereas most brands would make this a direct injected shoe, but trying to get that shoe apart compared to a glued shoe, it's a lot different. So if you want it to be recraftable, you almost need a cemented construction, so at any point you can start peeling that off. And so to me, this does look recraftable, but will this upper last through 2 resoles? I think it will. You know, I think through all the materials we talked about, I think it'll last through at least one other resole, maybe even 3. But to really tell if this is actually a recraftable construction, we gotta cut it in half, see what's on the inside, how all these other layers are put together and held together so that when they remove that midsole and outsole, the whole thing doesn't come apart. So now, let's cut them in half. It's time for Scar School for Scratch and Dent sale, 30% off. So what is Scratch and Dent? Well, these are all animal hides, so it's gonna have some flaws. Starting with number 1, there's a lot of brands. Someone branded this cow at a young age, it healed over, looks cool. Now we can cut through it, so it's Scratch and Dent. Cool little numbering from the tannery probably. It doesn't affect the structural at all, but it just looks cool, but not everyone wants numbers on their products. Small little baby wrinkles that are just a little bit into the grain. A really common one is just dye flaws or inconsistencies in the color of the leather just to try to match it. You know, this is a pretty severe one, but most of the other ones are a lot smaller that we can integrate into a product without it looking too crazy. But all this is like the most severe stuff you're gonna see on Scratch and Dent. Most of the other stuff's just our manufacturing flaws where we scratch it with a needle or whatever. So 30% off Scratch and Dent, check it out below. All right, we got it cut in half. If you're not subscribed, consider pushing the little subscribe button. Check out our handmade leather goods. Check out our collaborations. That's how we're able to afford to buy several brand new pairs of footwear a week just to destroy in hopes that you guys watch them and learn from them. So do us a little favor, give us a sub, give us a like, a comment, whatever you do helps. So now, let's see what's inside. So what's on the inside? Well, one thing that I really like about the shoe is it almost feels like a zero drop shoe. There's very little difference between the heel and the forefoot, especially when you're standing on it and your weight compresses that heel. And that's something I really like about these. They're very squishy underfoot. They feel fairly flat. They're not like you're walking on a big hill. And now you can see that cross section of the nitrogen filled midsole. Is there any difference visually? It does kind of look different. We've got the macro lens out and you can see it looks a little bit different. So I wonder if the nitrogen almost makes smaller bubbles compared to oxygen. And now we can really see what that plate is on the inside. It is this kind of off yellow color that runs from the heel and splits at the heel, comes back together, and it looks like it splits again at the forefoot. And so that's how you reinforce that ultra soft nitrogen foam and still make it a shoe that can actually be hiked in with the rigidity you need to not completely wear out your calf and your feet. Now you can really see what I meant by that, having almost like a booty on the inside to prevent all the junk from getting to the inside of your shoe. And one thing I really like is these little straps, you can see they're reinforced all the way through and are tucked in underneath the insole. So even these little lace keepers are reinforced. So then is this shoe recraftable? Is this something that will be pretty easy for Danner to peel off this outsole and glue a new one on? I think it is, but I honestly thought there was gonna be something more to reinforce it, especially with this Strobel board, because the way it's constructed is a Strobel stitch construction, and then the outsole and midsole is glued on. And so when you pull that midsole off, this is a thin and weak enough material. I'd be concerned that it would pull that off as well. So I thought there's gonna be a lot more substantial material in there. Final answer, I think they replaced the midsole and the outsole at the same time, and I think it is a recraftable shoe, especially now that you can see these black bumpers tuck underneath the insole. And so really the only concern I have would be that is this Strobel board strong enough to last through a resole? So then what's gimmicks and what's not? Is the nitrogen infused midsole a gimmick? I don't think it is. It does feel different. It's maybe a little bit gimmicky because I can't see the whole world shifting to it, but it works. The Perspare upper, quick drying and abrasion resistant, clearly works. I like this material a lot, especially the dual use. TPU rock plate clearly works. So is this the lightest and toughest performance hiking sneaker that we've ever seen? It's up there. I think there might be some more purpose-built sneakers like the Noglevs you could point to say like that's a superior hiking shoe in terms of durability, but these are a lot squishier and a lot softer underneath your foot. So it might not be the toughest performance hiking sneaker, but combining it with the lightest and toughest, there's a fairly decent argument to make. And I think that's exactly what these are. Danner really focused on making these as light as possible, but as tough as possible by using premium materials. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know of your experience if you had any of these. And do you think this is the lightest and toughest performance hiking sneaker? And if not, let me know what you think's better, because maybe we'll cut them. Maybe we'll do a light hiking shoe series and really figure out who makes the best one. So thank you guys for all your support. Give us a sub, give us a like, check out our handmade leather goods and our collaborations. It's how we're able to do this. And I'll put links to any other Danner and Huckberry videos we have in the description. So thank you guys for all your support. See ya.